Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro, friends. Today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by FAFCoffees. If you're looking for great Brazilian coffees, please head to fafbrazil.com and check them out. Or you can contact felipecroce on felipecroce@fafcoffees.com. You'll see the links in the show notes below. Today on the Daily Coffee Pro, we're going to summarize what we have learnt about the sea market so far on the podcast. It's been an interesting ride so far, and we've definitely learnt lots. There's still definitely more to learn, but we have learnt lots. So what is the sea market? The sea market is a mechanism that is used to trade contracts, not real coffee, on an exchange which people use to buy and sell coffee, in air quotes. So it's to sell coffee contracts. Okay. Now, this exchange, which is called the ICE exchange, we refer to it as the sea market, and sea market is a term that we think, from the research that I've been doing this week and the people that I've asked, it seems that the term sea market is actually just a slang term. It's not an official term. So the ICE exchange is where people trade on what we refer to as the sea market. So I think on the ICE website it's called the coffee sea market. And the idea there is that people, so the technical kind of idea behind why a commodities market exists is so that people, being the farmer who grows a crop and wants to secure a price for that crop because they don't know what the market's going to be doing at the time they go to sell that crop, they go and take a portion of that crop and they put it up for sale on the commodity exchange, or the sea market in this, if we're talking about coffee. And they have a price there that they're willing to sell it at. So they set the price themselves. Also on the other side of that is somebody who's looking to, in theory, buy that commodity or coffee at a set price, because when they take hold of the coffee, and coffee again in air quotes, they want to secure a portion of the amount of coffee that they would normally use in a year. They want to secure the price so that they can make sure that their profit margins are going to be reasonably within the determined cost of goods that they would normally want to do business at. So let's say, for argument's sake, a farmer has 1,000 hectares of coffee, and they go and they take 50% of that and they say, I want to sell it for $1 per pound on the sea market, and they lock in that price that they want to sell it at. An anonymous buyer comes in and says, well, I need to buy one contract worth of coffee, which is 37,500 pounds worth of coffee. And they go on and they say, well, I need to buy that much. I need more for my annual production that I'll need. But if I lock it in at this price, then that will help me if the market does something crazy at the time I actually need to take ownership of the coffee. Remember, this is air quotes coffee. It's not real, and we'll talk about that in a second. But that's why the exchange was originally created. So you have a seller who wants to sell for a set amount and a buyer who wants to buy for the same set amount. The exchange matches those two people without them knowing who each other are. Okay, so that happens across all commodities. Now, when you're buying, we say you're buying coffee, you're not really buying coffee. It's a futures market. So if I buy a contract on the exchange today, it could be for a contract that expires 2 months down the track. And if that's the case, you'll buy it today, and you'll most likely, for what's happening right now, it's not really what. Look, you can actually buy coffee on the sea market. So the original reason that it was established, it can still be used for that, but it's not predominantly used for that. It's used for what we call hedging. Hedging is where people buy and sell contracts on the sea market so that they can protect or hedge their risk against the business that they're doing in real life contracts. And so what happens is that you'll have people that are actually doing real life coffee contracts, where they're going to the farmers and they're buying coffee off a real contract, and they secure the price at this time, and then they go and do other fuckery, which I don't quite understand, on the sea market to hedge their bets if they end up losing on that contract when it comes time to deliver. If you buy a contract on the sea market through the ICE exchange, if you buy a contract, as long as you sell it a month before it's due to expire, you never take delivery of that, and you keep rolling it over. Is the contract keeps getting rolled over so that the coffee never actually has to be delivered. Although some contracts do expire, and if it does, so a month before a contract is meant to expire, a notification will be sent to the exchange where it's supposed to be, not to the exchange, to the place where fulfillment is meant to happen. And once that has been triggered, you cannot not take delivery of the coffee. There are two types of people, or two categories of people that deal on the sea market. There are people within the industry that use it as a hedging mechanism against the coffee that they're buying in real life. Okay? And those are the people that are using it as a risk management tool. So the coffee they're buying in real life is separate from the sea market, but has a relationship with the sea market because they're buying off what we call differentials. So they're using the sea market as the base price plus differentials that determine on top of the sea market. So it's a differential on top of the amount that the price is fixed at from the time that you take delivery of the coffee, or whenever the terms are that you've decided that you're going to fix the price. The differentials on top are things like, is it an organic coffee? Is it an 86 scoring coffee? Is it a particular gesha? Is it like all of these extra things on top of just a commercial coffee are going to add little bits of differentials that stack onto each other that then determine the ultimate price that you will agree to pay and sign a contract for to take delivery of the coffee. But it is based on a relationship with the sea market, but it's not tied to the sea market in any kind of official capacity where it's listed on the exchange or anything like that. The sea market is set as a reference for the base price for commercial coffee, and the differentials are added on top of that. That's one category of people that are using the C market. The other category of people that are using the C market are what we call speculators. Now, speculators are completely out of the industry. They're people who trade, buy and sell coffee, in air quotes, on the ICE exchange, or the C market as we call it, purely because they're trying to make coffee. Sorry, not coffee. They're trying to make money. So they are looking to buy at one price and sell at a higher price. And they're watching the market purely to buy a contract and then sell it as quickly as possible at a higher price. Well, quickly as possible or not, but their sole purpose for speculators is to sell higher than they bought it for so that they can make money. It is, as we said, done anonymously, and it is done very regularly. Like thousands and thousands of contracts are bought and sold on the C market or the ICE exchange every single day. I'm just referring to some notes here to make sure that I've covered most of that part. One last thing, people who are speculators on the C market, then, as I said, they're not coffee people. So the information that they receive really isn't in any way tied to the coffee supply chain. They are understanding basic kinds of principles of what's going on. If it's a big yield year, or if there's been frost that's happened through a particular region, on that perspective, supply and demand has a lot to do with the way that speculators will trade on the C market. But remember, it's not real coffee. So the actual yield of what's happening in the ground, in the dirt at origin, is only influencing speculators because it may cause people to behave in a certain way when they're buying and selling on the C market. The speculators have no interest in taking ownership of the coffee, and the people in the industry who are buying and selling contracts on the exchange are not actually doing that because they're intending on buying the actual coffee off of the exchange. And that's only in most cases. You absolutely can, as I said earlier, you absolutely can buy and sell actual physical coffee on the ICE exchange or the C market, but it's not the main reason. People don't typically do that today. It's from what has been explained to me, that is not the main mechanism in today's use of the ICE exchange or the C market for what we use it for. If I really hope that I broke that down in a way that was easier for everyone to understand. It took a lot of research and conversations and work to get it that simplified, and there's still so much to learn, but we're going to keep plugging through, and we're going to keep bringing people on the podcast that will explain more and more and more to us. The coffee supply chain is severely more complex than we have let ourselves believe up until now. The people who deal in buying coffee and who do work in importing and exporting, they know how complex. The people in the middle of the supply chain understand the complexity of it. And a lot of those people that I've spoken to don't understand all the intricacies of it either. But it's mostly the people at the extreme ends of the coffee supply chain that don't really get the complexities that go into the coffee supply chain. So the farmers, the millers, and everyone in between those that get it to the point of being exported, and everyone from the importer on. So the roasters and the cafe owners and baristas and support staff and all of those kinds of professions typically don't understand the complexity of the coffee supply chain. And we're working very hard on the podcast to help get a lot of information around this. And moving forward, one of the things that I'm going to be doing is bringing on board as guests on the podcast people from origin countries that can actually talk about the complexity of the supply chain within their country. So we're getting people who sit on the boards of like the coffee boards and the growers boards. That's not technical terms, but a lot of these titles are in native languages to those origins. So we're going to have interpreters for a lot of them, but we're going to be bringing in the people who help make decisions and really understand what's going on at origin on the ground to help us really get our head around how complex a lot of this is. I hope that's helped. Please check out our sponsors link in the show notes below. Peace, love and peanut butter.